Hi, welcome to another fast and simple development video. Today we're going to talk about Java and SMS and how to use Twilio with Spring Boot to send an SMS. So let's dive in. First thing we're going to do is create a Spring Boot project, and I'm using IntelliJ to do that. I'm going to create a new project, and it has a Spring initializer built in. I'm going to call this SMS demo Maven. I'm going to give it a domain name for my company, thomasjconsulting.com. I'm going to set it up for Java 1.8 and a runtime of Java 8. And it's going to be a jar file. I'm going to use Spring Boot 2.77. I'm going to add in Lombok, Spring Web, and let's go ahead and add in actuator, the ops, Spring Boot actuator. All right, let's create the project. We'll go ahead and open the project up in a new window here. I'm going to close this help file. And so now we have a basic Spring Boot project. We can look at our source and we'll see the standard Spring Boot files for the SMS demo application, and it's a Spring Boot application. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm just going to hit the play button. It asks me to enable some Lombok annotations. And we can see it starts up on port 8080. I'm going to hit the red stop button to stop it. I'm going to go in the resource files, the application properties. I'm going to actually change the port it's listing on. So I'm going to set the server.port equals to 3100. So now if I restart the application, it's not listing on port 3100. I've made a typo. Let me fix the typo. Let me save that. Now let's relaunch this. Now we can see we're listening on port 3100. Great. So the next step for what we want to do is we want to create an endpoint to listen to. I'm going to create a new package called controller. And this is a Spring Boot convention. So in controller, I'm going to create a file. This is going to be called the SMS REST controller. Okay, so I'm going to define this as a REST controller. Okay, so we've annotated this as a REST controller. And in there, we can also add a mapping, so a request mapping. So we can say that our controller is going to be located at /API/v1. That way we have some version APIs. And in here, we're going to create a get mapping. And this is going to be for an endpoint process SMS. It's just going to be a get. For this endpoint, I'm just going to make this public string process SMS. No parameters right now. I'm going to have it return a string. I'm just going to say to do. Let's start this up and see where we're at. All right, we started up, listening on port 3100. I am now going to start Postman. We have Postman up and running, and I'm going to go to localhost 3100. There's nothing here because we actually have to go to API/v1/process SMS. Now we get our response to do. Great. So we have our basic endpoint working. I want to make this a post, so we're going to add a little bit more to this. So let's make this a post mapping. Let's import that. And now our post mapping, typically we can have additional parameters. And what we're going to have on here is a request body. So I'm going to annotate this in here. We select request body, and that's going to be of type SMS send request. We're going to call it send request. Okay, now for Spring Conventions, I need to create this send request as a model. So we can go in and quickly create a new package. I'll call that model. And in here, we'll create a new class for that send request. I will create a couple types in here. And some of the information that we need when we send it is we're going to need a destination SMS number where we're going to send it to. We're also going to need the message. I'll call this SMS message. Okay. Now, typically, I could put getters and setters in here. But since I'm using Lombok, I don't have to do that. We can actually go through here and simply return at data as an annotation. And that will create our getters and setters. Now we notice we have one problem here. That's because we have not imported it. And if we go over here and import this, that problem's now solved. Okay, so we're going to send in a destination number and a SMS message. Just one, not plural. Okay, so now on the REST controller, what we're going to do is I want to do some logging over here. So I can add SL4J because I've added in our Lombok. So now I can just do log info, and I can say this class and method name started, and I can say send request colon, and then I can print out the send request in here. Let's print that out to string. Okay, so let's see how this here works now. Let's stop this. Let's restart the server. I need to send in this information from our postman. So let's go back to our postman. Let's change this from a get to a post. And then we need to have a post body. I'm going to say raw, and it's going to be a JSON. So in this JSON, I'm going to say the phone number for the destination number. I'm going to make that +1 415 792 2640, which is my phone number, comma, and then the message, SMS message, and it'll be, hi there, Tom. So let's see what this looks like. Let's run this post, and let's see what we get in our IntelliJ. Here we go. We printed it out. We got this. We got the phone number, and we got the message. Everything we need now. So we're going to go ahead and close this SMS send request. Now that we have this, we need to actually add the code to do the actual SMS send. To do that, I'm going to create a service. So in here, I'm going to create a new package called service. And then in this service package, I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it SMS service. Great. So in here, the first thing I'm going to do is annotate this as a service. And I also might want to do some logging in here. So I'm going to add in the SL4J. And in the service, I'm going to have a method, public string send SMS. And I think we probably need a couple parameters. The first thing we need is the SMS number. And then we also need the SMS message. We can pass those in. And for now, I can just return nothing done. So let's quickly go through and let's use this service. In our REST controller, we need to add this in, and we can auto wire it. And we'll use the SMS service as an SMS service. I need to import it. And now I will call the SMS service send SMS. And in this, there's two parameters, the SMS number and the SMS message. So in this, there's two parameters, the SMS number and the SMS message. We can get that in the request. So let's get the destination SMS number and the request dot get SMS message. Great. Now we have the parameters we need. And let's see how this here works. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's go back to our Postman. And let's run this and see what the response is. Ah, there. We sent the data in here and it says nothing done. It's exactly what we expected. So now we have to add in our code into our service. The first thing we need to do to get the code in here is go to our pom.xml, and we have to add the code to support the Twilio. So I'm using the Twilio for the APIs. And so if you go to twilio.com, you can sign up and you can get a key, which will provide you all the information to set things up. So you'll get an account SID and authentication token. You'll also need to set up for an SMS number. That's going to be your outgoing number. So now we can go ahead and set this information up. And to start with, I will add into our POM file what we need to support this. So we need to add in the Twilio dependency, and this is the Twilio dependency. Now I can go back to our SMS service, and there's several things I need to add over here. The first thing we need to do is get some parameters passed into it, and we're going to get that from the properties files because we don't want to use it hard-coded. So I'm going to use an @value annotation, and I'm going to get the value from the property files. I can do that by using the curly bracket syntax, and in here I'm going to get Twilio _ account _ SID. And I need to set this to a variable. So in here, I'm going to define a string with that. So now in our property file, I need to set the Twilio SSID. So let's go in here and let's set that to a value. We can also go into our service again, and we need to create two more items in here. And the first one is the Twilio auth token. We'll just call that auth token. Again, we need to add that to our properties files. And then the last item is going to be the Twilio outgoing SMS number. And all this information can be found from the Twilio website when you sign up. We need to go add in the Twilio SM number into the properties. And now that I have all the information here, we should be good to start. So I want to set up a couple things in the constructor, but if we run the constructor for this, we'll find out something interesting. So to start with here, let's go ahead and create a public constructor. And in this public constructor, we can log something. And we can say creating class SMS service. That's the first thing I want everyone to see. And also in here, let's look at the value of this account ID. So we're going to say the account SID. And what is the value of it? So let's go ahead and run this. We can see our account SID is null, but we actually have a value for it. That's because Spring does not initialize the values until after the constructor is finished. So we actually have to run this in the post constructor. In the post constructor, we can just make this a private void setup, because that's kind of what it really is. And now we can say what the value is. We can log this out. Let's stop it and let's restart it. Okay, so now we can see the value of XXX. So initialization components and such need to be done in the post constructor for Spring. So we need to add in Twilio init. We're going to put in the account SID and the auth token. And we notice here that Twilio is not imported. So let's go ahead and import this in here. Let's go ahead and go back to our POM, Maven, and let's reload this. Now that we've done that, we can actually import that class. So we've now imported com.twilio.twilio. Okay, so that's the first thing we need. In addition, we're going to need to import a message and a phone number. I'm going to go ahead and put these in because sometimes it's difficult to autocomplete. So we want to make sure we're getting V2010 account message and type phone number. Now, whenever we actually are ready to send, it's fairly simple. We can actually just use the Twilio code. We can say message. I'll say message equals message dot creator, and then in here I can say new phone number, and this is going to be the SMS phone number. This is what we're going to send it to. And then we're going to create another new phone number, and this is going to be the outgoing phone number. So we're creating to this phone number from this phone number. And what are we going to send? We have an SMS message. That's going to be our payload. Okay, and then we have a create. And what we can do here now is for our return, we can actually return the response of what's going on. So we'll do a message, get status to string. And what we're hoping will happen is Twilio will enqueue this to be sent out through SMS. Okay, so let's stop this and see if this compiles. Okay, this does compile. Let's go into our Postman and let's try to send this and see if we get a message. Hi there. And we get a message that says queued. And we get a message coming back that says, hi there. I can go through and we can make some changes here. I can go in and make some changes. And I can say, check out my blog. And I can send a bit.ly link. So let's send this and see what it looks like. So now I get a message that says check out my blog with a link. And I can click on this link. And this link takes me to my blog. So that's pretty nice. So we've quickly seen how we can add Twilio in a Spring Boot application, send in a post with some parameters, and send out an SMS message. And even in the SMS message, we can include a link that can be clicked on. So think of the ideas of using this to verify a user login, to reset a password. There's all sorts of things you can do to send notifications to users. We'll have a class on Udemy that will go over a multi-tenant solution where we can actually send out messages to several different configured users. We can track information sent to the users, the count of SMS messages for each different tenant, which is really just the Twilio account. And we'll be able to track a lot of information through a much deeper API. So this was another fast and simple development project. Please check out my Udemy classes, follow me on Medium, and watch my other YouTube videos. I hope you liked the video. Please take a look at my other videos I have and subscribe and like this video. Thank you.